welcome to Life and Soul Radio. My name's David Finch, and thank you for joining me today for In Conversation, a show where I talk to someone from the world of well-being. Today, I'm talking to an energy healer. She's undertaken extensive research with her clients, which has led her to understand that we store emotions in our organs, and all that stored emotions is affecting our sleep, our digestion, and so much more. Stay with me, because in a moment I'm going to be talking to Jen Edwards. Welcome back to Life and Soul Radio with myself, David Finch, and today I've got a very special guest in the studio, but actually she's not in the studio, she's via Zoom, which is great because she feels like she's in the studio because I can actually see her. Her name's Jen Edwards. Welcome along, Jen.
Sure. Hi, Dave. Thanks so much. It's so lovely to be here. It's so lovely to chat to you. And thanks very much for having me. I'm thrilled. I'm really thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming. And I'm fascinated. Some of the stuff that you do, I'm really, really interested in asking lots of good questions. And I'm sure our listeners are going to find your information really useful. So tell us what you do, Jen.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. All right. So I'm an energy healer. I'm an intuitive energy healer. That means I heal you using the methodologies I use are called the body code and the emotion code. And essentially what we do with the body code and the emotion codes are we release trapped energies, we release trapped baggage from life shock events that we have accumulated over the years. And what happens, eventually what happens, these are all sitting in our organs, sitting in our glands. They affect how we feel, they affect how we react. They also affect our physical well-being and our mental well-being. So, there's all sorts of baggage that we carry. And in the end, what happens is it literally results in symptoms coming out like back pain or joint pain or severe anxiety or digestive issues or headaches, all sorts of things that result as an end sort of result of these emotions which we've trapped, this emotional baggage which we've trapped and carried in our bodies for so long. And what we find is when we release these trapped emotions, it gives our bodies an opportunity to try and heal itself and gives it the space to heal from things like incontinence, from insomnia and things like that.
Now that sounds absolutely fascinating because you was mentioning a few things there like about back pain, digestive systems, and I was thinking, right, I've had that. Right? So I think a lot of this is going to resonate with me today. But you said about this emotional baggage and it contributes to things like digestive issues, insomnia. How is that?
Yeah, I think that that coming from someone like you, I think you are interested in these kind of things, is probably not a huge surprise to hear something like that. Lots of people who hear me make statements like that think, oh, how can that work? It's just not logical. But what I do is I keep records of all my healing sessions. I write case studies, which I put on my blog, jenedwards.com. And what I've noticed in my case studies across the board with patterns, clients who come for me for things like insomnia, digestive issues, headaches, urinary tract infections, incontinence, back pain, coughing. I notice that there are patterns. If I look at 6 clients' records, and I have obviously had, I'm in a stage where I've had lots of clients. I look at their records and I find that there's a pattern consistently. So, for example, let's talk about insomnia. The interesting thing about insomnia is that it's very much the liver, the gallbladder, and sometimes the hypothalamus gland are involved with insomnia. Now, I think you may be aware, Dave, that in Chinese medicine, the liver is very much associated with sleep issues. And in fact, they found that patients in Western medicine, we find that patients who have cirrhosis of the liver have an impact on insomnia and also on being sleepy during the day. So their circadian rhythms have been affected. And with insomnia, what I found, which absolutely blew me away, the first time I noticed it, I thought, wow, really? And then, as I say, I've seen this pattern recurring, so I know it really is there. We trap emotions in our liver and our gallbladder. To a lesser degree, we trap it in our hypothalamus gland. And our hypothalamus gland is a gland deep in our brain, which is associated with the circadian rhythm, amongst other things. Now, the interesting thing about the hypothalamus gland is that it's not associated with emotions. So we know that our bodies, if we look at our lungs and our colons or our livers or our hearts, they typically generate typical types of emotions. So when I talk about that, I say that the liver and the gallbladder specifically trap things. I'm going to look at my chart now. They trap specifically anger, bitterness, guilt, hatred, resentment, depression, frustration, indecisiveness, panic, and taken for granted. Now, when I'm working with when I'm working with clients who have insomnia, I find across the board that they have this consistent pattern. They present with those trapped emotions in their gallbladders and in their livers. In terms of what they trap in the hypothalamus, they trap other random emotions, and I haven't really found a pattern there. But across my case studies in sleeplessness, in insomnia, sleep issues, I find that the liver and the gallbladder are very much affected by these trapped emotions. So in Chinese medicine, what we say is that at about 11 p.m. in the evenings, the liver and the gallbladder grind into gear and they start processing what's happened to us during the day. They help our metabolisms. And they process what emotions we've experienced during the day. And that's one of the functions of your liver, is to process at night what you've experienced during the day. And those are what we find. We find that those trapped emotions are sitting in the liver. The people have kept these emotions. They haven't processed them. And now they are affecting sleep.
Wow. I tell you, Jen, did you look at my website and check out how I got into hypnotherapy at all? Or not?
Yes.
You did? Okay.
Yes.
For the listeners who perhaps haven't done that, I'm just going, because what you've just said was probably how I felt, I'm going to say probably 10, 15, 20 years ago, because I had this problem for quite a while. So for the listeners who perhaps haven't seen the website and haven't known what my situation was and how I got into hypnotherapy, was that I had fatty liver disease. And I had cirrhosis of the liver, and I was given at that time, back in 2009, the consultant said to me, if you don't change what you're doing, you will die in 10 years. That was last year, actually. 2019 would have been the 10-year anniversary. So great, I'm still here, which is brilliant, because I changed what I was doing. But actually, what you just said resonates with me more, because they said it was my diet. And I think that probably was a very big contributing factor, because I did have quite a poor diet at the time. However, if I go back 15, 20 years and probably even further, because this didn't just happen overnight, of course. I had quite a stressful, up and down kind of a crazy life, for want of a better phrase. So those emotions and those feelings could then have affected my liver in that way and cause that cirrhosis of the liver. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, definitely. And I love your story, because your story resonates with me. And you know what? It resonates with everyone who does what we do. People like us, and when I say people like us, I mean you and me, and other types of people who work in this kind of wellness space. Because always the story is, or not always, but in my experience, the story has always been, I had a problem. Yeah. And I worked with the problem and I solved the problem, and that's how I came to be who I am. I just love that. It resonates with me so. Yeah. So thanks for just sharing that again and just going into the detail. I think that's such an amazing story. And yes, I do believe that diet is involved. I've never said, so as an energy healer, I believe implicitly that I work with Western medicine. So when I work alongside Western medicine, I work hand in hand. I never ever would say to someone, don't go to your doctor, or don't, if you've got cancer, for example, don't do chemotherapy or don't do radiotherapy. I would say, let me work hand in hand with you. Let me work with you. So I would support, because I believe implicitly that the kind of work we do, the kind of work you do, and the kind of work I do supports people and walks alongside them when they do a Western medicine path. Quite passionate about that.
Yeah. And it was just a confirmation for me, really, that those stresses, shall we say, that I experienced in earlier life, some of those could have been a contributing factor again to like the stresses, if you like, in the liver, causing that to be cirrhosis and cause really. I was very, very ill at certain times in my life, really ill, and the doctors actually couldn't put their finger on it. I used to go to the doctor and say, look, I went really ill. I get this really bad hangover feeling. That's what I got, a really bad hangover feeling. I would get up in the middle of the night, I'd be sick, but I wouldn't be very sick because there wasn't anything to be sick with, if that makes sense. Yes. And I had this banging headache, terrible, as if I had a hangover, really. And I would get that quite regularly. And there was one doctor once who said to me, have you ever had a liver function test? And I went, I don't know. I come here and you take blood. I don't know what you do with it. Kind of as a patient, if you like. You don't always know what they're doing, do you? I suppose, no. Unless you actually ask. But he said, you've never, and you look back and you've never had a liver function test. I went, well, okay then. What does that do? You're kind of naive, if you like, And he said, well, your liver is your kind of your filter, if you like, and if you're putting a lot of bad stuff into it, then it's going to cause bad feelings in your body, and it's going to make you feel like you've got that hangover. Oh, wow, that was a defining moment for me. So, of course, I had lots of tests then. I had the ultrasound, I had a biopsy, and several things, different tests. That then gave me the result that, yes, I actually had the liver of someone who drank probably, the way they described it to me, probably 6-7 pints or so a day or night, and go out at the weekends and get absolutely blasted. Now, at the time, I never drunk at all. Nothing whatsoever. And I still don't. So that to me was like, this is crazy. But my liver was of the liver of someone who was absolutely alcoholic. And they said, look, you've got to change. But one of the things I did change was my diet. And one of the other things I changed was the way that I felt about things. And I started to become a hypnotherapist. And I started to sort out, if you like, all the stuff that was causing me stress and anxiety in my life, I changed my career, which was causing me anguish as well. So all of that led to the fact that actually I don't have a liver problem anymore. And my liver function tests are okay now, which is cool. So you're kind of giving me another confirmation that to do what I did was the right thing. And I think if anyone's in that same situation today, and any of our listeners today, if any of that resonates with you, go and get a liver function test. So look, Jen, to get you back on track, you mentioned earlier on UTIs. Some people take antibiotics for that,
yes.
Over-the-counter remedies. They don't really get it checked out. So what connection have you found to this emotional baggage you was mentioning earlier to UTIs?
Oh, okay, well, I've definitely found connections. And in fact, this is one of my favorite stories. I have a client who came to me, and she had presented for over a year. Well, a year she'd been having antibiotics on and off because she had repetitive urinary tract infections, which she just could not get rid of. And by the time she came to me, she just finished 3 back-to-back months of antibiotics. So she'd been taking them for a year, and they simply were not helping. They were not releasing her urinary tract infections. If anyone's ever had a urinary tract infection, and I have had them, they are super uncomfortable. It's the most horrible thing. It really is just awful. And she was at her wit's end. She didn't know what to do about it. And she thought, I wonder if energy healing will help. And I love the challenge of figuring out tough issues that no doctor seems to be able to budge. I love taking these on and seeing how we can shift people out of pain and into peace. So, of course, I said to her, yes, I'll do it, because for me, it's always first opportunity. Let's try this and just see if we can help. So, yes, I took it on. Yes, we cleared the UTIs. I think we did 2 sessions. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2. But what did I discover? And what I discovered again and again, I've seen patterns here, because I've also worked a lot with people with incontinence, and incontinence is also a favorite one of mine because it's so responsive. I love working with people with incontinence. And across the board, I found that these people, as well as people with UTIs, are trapping emotions in their kidneys, their bladders, their ureters, and their urethras, which is the urinary system. And what we trap here are things like blaming, dread, fear, horror, peeved, conflict, creative insecurity, terror, unsupported, and wishy-washy. And I just think it's so astonishing. I love it. I just love it when I release these from people and their urinary situation improves, their incontinence stops, and their urinary tract infections disappear. I think it's just absolutely wonderful and stunning and so exciting. I feel so lucky to be able to help people do this. So, I would say to you, if you have incontinence or if you have recurrent UTIs, have a think about, do you respond by blaming others or blaming yourself? Do you have feelings of fear, horror, dread? Are you feeling unsupported? Are you feeling terrified? Are you feeling conflict? And if you are, then have a think about some of those emotions that you might be trapping and that are probably sitting in your urinary system that is probably contributing to your urinary tract infections and your UTIs.
Look, people come to me as a hypnotherapist, and a lot of what I deal with, it sounds very similar to yourself, is why. And what I want to ask you is, why would trapped emotions from past events affect your physical organs?
I believe that we are energetic beings. I believe that we are energy. I believe that the whole universe is energy. I believe that if you were able to zoom out from me and be a very enormous being with a huge microscope, you'd be able to look at me under your microscope and you'd see that I was little molecules joined up with space. There would be a lot of space and little molecules. And because I'm energy, I am energy. And we are all energy, I believe. That's my belief system. Everything in this universe is energy. So this table that I've got my laptop on that we're talking via Zoom is energy. The laptop is energy. They're just different consolidations of energy. So they are more ethereal or they are more solid energy. So the table obviously is more solid energy than my physical body. And my emotions are more ethereal energy, like they are lighter energy, like similar to air, say, or to wind. And I believe that when we don't process emotions, so when we're unable to cope with our emotions or unable to give them names or unable to process them in a safe way, what happens, those emotions are almost like little balls of energy. And we trap them, and we tend to generate them with specific organs. So like I've said, the kidneys and bladder generate things like blaming, dread, fear, horror, peeved. And once generated, then what we do is we trap those emotions in our bladders, in our kidneys, and they take up energetic space. So if you imagine lots of little balls of energy sitting in our glands and organs, eventually what happens is it almost pushes the glands and organs into displacement in a way, and it prevents them from functioning properly. Once you release those energies, what happens is we allow the body space heal itself, because the body is an amazing, amazing organism. It has the ability to heal. But when we, rather than suppressing the things that we, like with headache pills, for example, suppressing the symptoms, when we release what's causing the symptoms, and I believe that those are trapped emotions, when we release those, we are able to then align the organs, and the organs are better able to function and to heal themselves.
What can people do to not need you, me, anyone else to help them in their life?
I think that's such a valid question, because I agree with you. I think that, for me, when people come to me, my aim is to get them to a place where they don't need me, where they are able to walk freely by themselves without that cricky knee, or to be able to deal with their anxiety, to deal with their issues by themselves. So I'm 100% with you. I would like to empower people rather than make them dependent on me. And one of the ways that I would suggest I would like to do that is by saying to us, we can, in fact, process our emotions so that we don't trap them as much as we do. So if you think, the way I explain trapping emotions is a bit like taking a breath in and then holding on to it, forgetting to breathe out. So we don't process them, we hold on to them instead, and then we trap them in one or more of our organs. So if we haven't processed it, we haven't allowed it to be, we haven't allowed it to be worked through our systems. And possibly we haven't done that because we just couldn't. Very often in the moment when we're experiencing that overwhelm of emotion, we are unable to rationally step back and to deal with it. So it's much easier just to push our emotions down, to ignore them, and to get on with our day. And when you were speaking earlier, Dave, about your experience with your liver, you said something about you took ownership, and that's another thing that's really important, and I'm sure you find that in your practice as well, is that I can come halfway to meet you, but you need to come the other half.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, 100%. And that's exactly what you did. When your doctor said to you, you need to change your diet, you changed your diet. And when you recognized and acknowledged that you had feelings or situations in your life that had overwhelmed you and that had made you feel whatever your feelings were, you decided to do something about that. You empowered yourself, and what you did was you became a hypnotherapist, and you looked at hypnotherapy as a means of dealing with what had happened that you believe were contributing to your liver. So not all of us are going to rush off and become hypnotherapists or, like me, become energy healers in order to deal with this. But what we can do is we can learn to be mindful about our emotions. We can learn, I think, that knowledge is power. So if you understand what happens essentially when we experience a rush of strong emotions, it's almost like we flip our lids. So if we think of our brains as an organ which has something called the amygdala, which are deep inside the brain, and when the amygdala fire, what happens is they push the cerebral complex, the cerebral brain away, the thinking brain, the problem-solving brain. So the amygdala fire, and they push this, they close down the cognitive parts of our brain. So the cognitive part of our brain is the brain that sits in our foreheads, and it's our problem-solving. And once the amygdala start firing, what happens is that the communication between the cognitive part of our brain and our feeling or thinking part of our brain breaks down. And very often we lose the ability to communicate logically with ourselves, because the messages get lost in our brain. And typically what happens with the amygdala were designed by our evolution to fire when we have two amygdala. They're about the size and shape of almonds in our brain, and they were designed to fire when we are in a situation which causes us to either need to fight or to flee or to freeze. So our amygdala were firing when we walked over a rise and bumped into a saber-toothed tiger, or when we walked around a corner and there was a woolly rhinoceros, or when we woke up in the morning in our caves and there was a strange tribe coming over the hill. So the amygdala are designed to protect us, but what happens when the amygdala are firing too often, as they do in our modern lives, because unfortunately this hasn't changed. So our saber-toothed tiger of today might be sitting in a traffic jam, or it might be having an argument with a partner, or it might be having a disagreement with a teenager. And the amygdala fires and the thinking brain shuts down. It simply cannot cope. And what we're doing is we're firing all these emotions. We're feeling overwhelmed, we're feeling angry, we're feeling fearful. And instead of then just taking a deep breath and stepping back and saying, hang on, I acknowledge these emotions, I'm able to name these emotions, I'm emotionally intelligent to know what the emotions are, and I'm able to give them labels and deal with them by sitting in a state of mindfulness or meditating, which is a lot of the stuff you do on your programs, or doing something like journaling or telling a friend, processing it. What we do is we feel uncomfortable and threatened, and we just push it down. We push it down and we say, I can't deal with this now, I can't deal with this now. And so we just don't deal with it. And those are the times in our lives where we trap these emotions because of life shock events. So a life shock event is something like getting divorced, it's being physically abused or emotionally abused, or when you were children, or anything. It can be being involved in a bomb in the London Underground. But those are the big things. But the thing is as well that our amygdalas are firing all day, every day. It's not always the big things. It's also the little things that can be when we lay down trapped emotional baggage. And so if you, for example, had anxiety around COVID, there's a fair chance, I would say, that or anxiety around yourself or about a loved one or something like that, there's a fair chance that you may have laid down some of these emotions of anxiety and worry and nervousness, despair, and that we're trapping those emotions as well. So, COVID is a wonderful opportunity. I'm very curious to find and see if my healing methods on people would work with COVID, because COVID is still so mysterious. I'd love to see if there was something I could do to help people with COVID. That's at the moment, that's my current dream. But, it's all these things that contribute to the anxieties and the stresses in our lives that cause us to trap these emotions. And I honestly believe that if we can learn to manage our emotions better, you won't need people like me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll be out of a job, but wouldn't it be a lovely world? We could go off and do something else then. I don't know what I would do now. This is me now, so yeah. So you mentioned COVID. How has things been for you for the last few months? Because, I know in the hypnotherapy world, I didn't do anything for a couple of months, as in work-wise. Of course, I was very busy in the background doing other things, but mainly gardening, to be honest with you, for the first few months. But, how has it affected you and your business?
Sure. Well, I am truly lucky and blessed, because it hasn't affected me. I have always worked online. My business is a global business. I have clients in America. I have clients in Australia. I have a wonderful client in Headingley who lives around the corner from me, but she cannot be bothered to get into her car. So everything we do on Zoom. So, she'll have her dressing gown on, she'll have a cup of coffee when we have our healing sessions, and everything we do on Zoom, or we do on WhatsApp or on Messenger video call. I have some clients in the States. I've been working with a gentleman who has erectile dysfunction problems. In America, I've never seen his face. He sends me emails about what he wants me to do and what symptoms he's experiencing, and all our communications are via email. Obviously, I connect with him energetically, and I do the healing, but it's all done remotely, Dave. So a healing session would look essentially like we look now. We'd be chatting to each other. Brilliant. And I'd be working with your higher self to release what needs to be released.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because I think for a lot of people, like myself really as well, I didn't do a lot online previously. And then, of course, the situation come along where I said, right, you have to close your business, stay at home, do whatever you're doing. And for people like yourself, actually you probably noticed not a much difference. But for me, it was like, what am I going to do now then? Hence Life and Soul Radio, because that was what I did. I actually decided then, okay, I'm going to do more podcasts. And then the podcast turned into, well, why don't we just make it an online radio station? And that's what happened. So that was my kind of contribution to sort of coming out of COVID situation. But yeah, it was for lots of people and lots of other businesses. They're still not open. There's I run a therapy centre, you see, in South Wales as well. And there's therapists that use the centre that haven't come back yet. And whether they will come back, who knows? It's a very different world for them. They do a lot of hands-on therapies, massage, reflexology. And a lot of those haven't returned to work yet, especially in South Wales. We're a little bit behind England, actually. The easing of the situation, we're a little bit behind. Okay, Jen, so I'm really fascinated by what you've said during our interview and our chat today. And you offered me earlier to do some kind of energy release. I'd be really grateful if you would do that and talk me through what you'd like to do. And I'll be your client, if you like, for today. Maybe our listeners, again, will get something out of that as well.
Okay, super. I'm delighted. I'm absolutely delighted to be able to help you. I hope I can. Okay, so would you like to tell me, you have told me a little bit about what you're experiencing, but just want to verbalize for me what's happening for you so that I can focus my attention.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So I did a bit of extra work, DIY work, and I thought it was down to the DIY work, but who knows, maybe after talking to you today, there may have been some of those negative emotions floating around my head, who knows. And at the moment, it's really giving me a pain right in the middle of my back and also in my lower back as well. And that's the two places that it's really, really painful at the moment. So whether you have any help for me, I don't know, but that's my situation at the moment.
Super. Okay, well, thanks for verbalizing that for me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a connection with you. So, and how I'm going to do it is I'm going to say, my name is Jen. And this is my yes. You'll see me swaying backwards and forwards because that's my kinesiology body. My body is talking to me, right? So that's my yes. My name is Jen. Okay, my name is Fred Astaire. That's my no. You'll see me swaying from left to right. You'll also notice I'm avoiding eye contact with you because I don't want to access the past or the future. I just want to access what is. So I'm going to ask if I can make a connection with you now, Dave. Yes, it's safe and appropriate to make a connection with you. My name is David. No. My name is David. No. My name is David. No. My name is David. Yes. My name is David. We have a connection. Some people can feel this physically. Some people feel it in their bodies when I connect with them. Some don't. It doesn't matter whether you do or don't. Okay. So now my name is David. We have a connection. I want to help you, David. Is there something I can do to help you with your painful lower back and the pain up in your shoulders, in the middle of your back at sort of shoulder level? Have I identified that correctly, Dave? I'm speaking to you now on a conscious level. I have. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to ask, is there a trapped emotion I can release that's the most urgent for you? What's coming up for me now is a yes. I'm working out my chart of trapped emotions. I think there's about 73 on here. I'm going into column A. It's column A. It's row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now interestingly enough, this is a trapped emotion that's sitting in your kidneys or your bladder. Yes. And this is blaming, dread, fear, horror. Is it peeved? Okay, you've got a trapped emotion of peeved. You trapped this emotion when you were in your 30s, 40s, 50s. You were in your 50s. You were 51, 2, 3, 4, 5. You were between 55 and 56. You trapped emotion of peeved and you stored it in your kidneys or your bladder, which might be contributing to the pain you have in your back, because if you think about where that is in your body, it's in your lower back. Okay, so let's release this. We're going to release this. Is it okay? Are you safe to release this now? Yes. Do I need to know anything more about this? No. Are we safe to release it? Yes. So now I'm going to strike with a magnet on your meridian, which runs between your eyebrows, down the middle of your back and up between your legs, up your midpoint, up to your bottom lip. Now I'm striking with a magnet to pull this energy from your system into your energy field. So I'm pulling it out of your body with love and the very best intentions, Dave. I release this trapped emotion of peeved from you. As I do, I bring balance to all parts of your body that have been affected by this. Right, have I released peeved from you? Yes. Have I balanced your being? Is there another one I can do for you? It is, it's resentment. Do you have a trapped emotion of resentment? Yes. This is sitting in your gallbladder. and it is resentment in your gallbladder. When you were in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 51, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 56 to 57, resentment 56 to 57, gallbladder, right? Is there more I need to know about this? Is there anything else you need to tell me? Are you able to release resentment now? Yes. And we're going to release resentment now with love and the very best intentions once again. So I'm striping on this meridian. As I release resentment from you, I bring balance to all parts of your being that have been affected by this with love and the very best intentions. Have we released resentment from you? Yes. Have we balanced your being? Would you like me to do another one?
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to do another one now, another trapped emotion that is affecting your painful lower back and your shoulders. Something that's feeding into this and supporting this. There's something else we can release. And this is humiliation. Humiliation is sitting in your glands and your reproductive system. This is when you were 20, 30, 40, 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 55 to 56. Do I need to know more about humiliation? Am I able to release this from you now? Yes. With love and the best intentions, we release humiliation from you. As we do, we bring balance to all parts of your being that have been affected by this trapped emotion. We release this now with love and the very best intentions. Have we released humiliation? Yes. Have we balanced your being? Okay. So what I've done is I've released three trapped emotions that have been contributing. Now, I have absolutely no doubt that your physical activities have definitely triggered this and made you feel this way. However, what I'm hoping is that by releasing three trapped emotions, I have quite good results from mini sessions like this, three emotions. I'm hoping that what will happen, it'll release something from you. I'm just going to check now, how long are you going to take to process this? You're going to take a day. You're going to take more than a day. No, it's one day. Are you going to be finished with this by the time you wake up tomorrow morning? Yes. You want to process this. So in other words, what we've done is we've pulled this trapped emotion from your being. From your meridians are like feeding into your main meridian. We pulled it along your meridians into your main meridian, out into your energy field. They are sitting in your energy field here. You may bump into them, as it were, right. In the next day. You may refeel those emotions. You may remember the situations where you trap those emotions. You may have a random memory that you haven't thought of for years, like, what is this? And then, but tomorrow morning, by the time you wake up, these emotions have left your energy field completely, and you are the new integrated Dave who doesn't have those particular three trapped emotions anymore.
That's fascinating.
Have any questions for me?
No, I have a comment though. I would love to, by tomorrow or even the next day, give it time to settle. Love to send you a quick message and just let you know how I feel then. Is that okay?
Please do. Yeah. I love that. I always follow up with my clients and say, what's happening with you? If you feel worse, you need to tell me, because sometimes what I need to do is go and reset your chakras. Sometimes your chakras get a bit wonky, and then if I reset them, it helps you. Yeah. So please do. Please check in with me.
I absolutely enjoyed that. And for our listeners, of course, they couldn't see what you was doing. But, for me, I could actually see what you was doing as well on the Zoom. And that added, if you like, to our connection during that. And I'm really fascinated to now wait and see what happens. And I'll get back in touch with you and let you know, Jen.
I'd love that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dave. And thank you for being my guinea pig.
Jen, it's been absolutely wonderful to talk to you today. If people like to get in touch with you, how can they do it?
Sure. Well, thanks again. It's been amazing talking to you. I've just loved hearing more about you. I'd love to chat to you maybe once we've hung up so we can have a bit of a chat and talk about more.
Yeah, let's do that.
Thank you. I have a website. It's www.jenedwards.com. Jen is spelled with a G because my name is Genevieve, so it's G-E-N Edwards. I also have a very affordable weekly healing circle where I heal people remotely, and people all together get healed all at once, and all the details of that are on my website. And I do have a Facebook page, and I have an Instagram page. All of the connections for that are on my website. So the best place probably is to have a look at my website.
What I will do is I'll put a link from the site to your site. So you'll have some way of getting in touch. So if you are listening and you didn't get Jen's details, then if you look on the Life and Soul Radio website or the retreat website in Ebbw Vale, if you look at either of those, they will have Jen's details. Jen, thanks once again. It's been fascinating talking to you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Dave.